Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for KREM 2 News 10 at 10, where we give you more news in less time. Mark is off this evening, so let's get started. Let's head straight to the forecast as temperatures are expected to soar into possible triple digits across parts of the inland northwest tomorrow. Meteorologist Michelle Boss is live in the weather studio tracking the very latest. Hi, Michelle.
Yeah, it was very hot today. Spokane, Coeur d'Alene stayed several degrees under 100, but we did see triple digits from Omak into Ritzville. Lewiston, of course, was well over 100 degrees. Tomorrow's going to be our peak day as far as temperatures are concerned, and then we'll start to see a gradual cool down, though it's still going to be very hot for this weekend. 85 right now at 10 o'clock. This is going to be one of those nights where some spots are going to have a hard time cooling down, Lewiston being one of those. 89 in Moses Lake, still 80 in Pullman, 87 in Lewiston. It's a little bit more comfortable in Deer Park. They're just under 70 degrees. But of course, we enjoyed full sunshine today, looking at clear skies tonight, and a heat advisory in effect for the Lewiston area through tomorrow evening, with highs ranging from the lower 90s to up to 107. I believe it was 104 today in Lewiston. Short-term forecast keeps the skies clear. Sun will warm things up very quickly. 82 by 10 a.m. on our way to 98 degrees in Spokane. A little bit of a cool down this weekend. Will be in the low to mid 90s, but still certainly hot.
Wow. Okay, thank you, Michelle. Because of the extreme heat, 6 Spokane City Public Libraries are going to be cooling centers starting today. The Central Liberty Park, Shadle Park, Hilliard, South Hill, and Indian Trail libraries are all going to be open for cooling. There's also space to cool off in the Trent Resource Center. Now, if you need help getting to and from the cooling centers, you can get a free ride with Spokane Transit.
We want to be available to help citizens who are vulnerable, our homeless population, but anyone who comes here and visits and is just walking the streets and cruising around, we want to make these resources available to anyone.
The shelters open at 9 in the morning until 7 in the evening. This is something the city does if the National Weather Service forecasts 2 or more days of at least 95-degree temperatures, which of course we're seeing a lot of this week. Well, today, 5 members of the white nationalist group Patriot Front were convicted of misdemeanor charges of conspiracy to riot. This comes after authorities arrested 31 members of the white nationalist group after finding them in the back of a U-Haul truck at a Pride event in Coeur d'Alene last summer. Police found riot gear, a smoke grenade, shin guards, and shields inside that truck. After only an hour of deliberation, the jury found all 5 men guilty of conspiracy to riot. They are set to be sentenced in a Kootenai County courtroom tomorrow morning and could face up to a year in prison or a $5,000 fine. We'll have the very latest on Up with KREM and on our website at krem.com. Well, Washington has the highest gas prices in the country right now, even topping California. A gallon of regular unleaded is selling for about $4.93 a gallon. Usually, one of the main factors in the price of a gallon of gasoline is the price of the crude oil that it's made from. Well, today, Governor Jay Inslee accused oil companies of raking in record profits at the expense of the environment and consumers. Erica Zucco has more on the governor's proposal to hold oil companies accountable.
The governor's office says that it wants oil companies to expose their accounting and, if it shows price gouging, to potentially issue penalties. Meanwhile, Republicans say that those climate policies are costing consumers and they want to see changes.
Standing in front of Highline School District's electric buses, Governor Jay Inslee doubled down on the climate policies he's rolled out and took fresh, direct aim at oil companies.
Enormous flood events, melting of the ice sheets. Our nation, our state is under attack by the pollution that comes from the oil and gas industry. And Washington State will not allow that.
Thursday, Governor Inslee announced legislation planned to be introduced by Democrats in January that would require oil companies to open up their books and the potential for a commission that could issue financial penalties, spotlighting a healthcare worker who says climate change is disproportionately harming some communities.
Whether it's respiratory, cardiac, cancers, maternal and infants are impacted, mental health, and the list goes on.
Republican State Senator Jeff Wilson says he too wants to see a cleaner environment, but he doesn't believe new costs to businesses are the way to do it.
while others may want to accuse oil companies of price gouging, I'll fire back and say gouging has been occurring in the last few years' states' budgets. It seems the state has had an enormous appetite to collect more money from somebody and then spend away with our biennial budgets.
The Western States Petroleum Association released a statement saying, quote, WSPA feels that well-designed carbon programs can be important to reducing carbon emissions, and that we need to make sure they don't have an undue impact to consumers or the economy.
The governor's office responded that all revenue from the Climate Commitment Act goes back into communities, and it would like to see the industry speak up on reducing emissions and addressing climate disasters. Reporting in the newsroom, Erica Zucco, King 5 News.
Meanwhile, over in Idaho, they're about 50 cents cheaper than the current prices here in Spokane County. Earlier this summer, we spoke with Patrick DeHaan from Gas Buddy on the drastic difference.
Washington State now has a carbon tax. It has special gasoline. The West Coast is also a bit of an island when it comes to refineries.
So between the carbon tax and Washington State's high tax on gasoline, Washington's prices are pushed up a lot higher than the national average. Idaho also doesn't have a carbon tax or as high a gasoline tax. Well, now to Night Beat with a quick look at the day's top stories. Happening today, a 19-year-old cyclist was killed in a hit-and-run collision at North Market and State Route 206 right across from the Yokes. The driver, 54-year-old Jonathan Fraun, hit the cyclist and then drove off. But according to WSP, he returned to the scene shortly after. Troopers said that part of the bicycle may have actually been stuck to the truck. KREM 2 did see the bike return to the scene, and it was taken away as evidence. We are working on getting more details, and when we do, we will bring them to you on KREM.com. Meanwhile, the Spirit Lake City Council is asking the Kootenai County Sheriff to create 2 contracts that would supply the town with law enforcement until the police department is fully staffed. In the first contract, Sheriff Bob Norris offered to provide deputies to the city for 80 hours a week for up to 6 months. The second contract would be for a student resource officer at Timber Lake High School. For more on this story, head on over to our website, KREM.com. And the Pierce County Medical Examiner's Office has released the cause and manner of death of a Spokane climber who was found dead on Mount Rainier last month. According to the Medical Examiner's Office, Earl Dawes Eddy died from high blood pressure that caused a plaque buildup in his arteries, which eventually led to a heart attack due to a lack of oxygen. His manner of death then was determined to be natural. Eddy's body was found in a crevasse at Mount Rainier, which he was climbing for the 50th time to celebrate his 80th birthday. Well, that was your Night Beat. To learn any more about these stories, just text the word NIGHT to 509-448-2000 and we'll send them right to your phone. The federal grand jury weighing whether to indict former President Trump over his role in the January 6th insurrection and his alleged efforts to overturn the 2020 election. They met today. A senior Trump source tells CBS News the target letter received by the former president cites 3 federal statutes: conspiracy to defraud the U.S., deprivation of rights under color of law, which applies when someone uses power to deny constitutional rights, and witness tampering and obstruction of an official proceeding.
The prosecution has interviewed so many witnesses, looked at so much documentary evidence. If they bring these charges, it means they absolutely believe that they can prove this beyond a reasonable doubt.
If Trump is charged, it will be his 3rd criminal indictment as he continues to be the frontrunner for the Republican presidential nomination. And that was KREM 2 News 10 at 10, where you get more news, in less time.